I lost my job as a paramedic 10 minutes after a video showed me taking cash while a man stopped breathing on my stretcher. I was still wearing my uniform, still smelling like disinfectant, still holding a cup of gas station coffee when my phone would not stop buzzing. People I saved before would not look at me anymore. My little brother asked why his school bus driver called me a criminal. In the video, my left hand wore a ring I never owned. By the end of that day, everything I trusted was already breaking. I lost my job as a paramedic 10 minutes after the video went public, but the morning itself started like every other shift I had worked for the past 8 years. The sky over Charleston was still gray when I clocked out. The air smelled like wet pavement and salt drifting in from the river. I sat on the edge of the ambulance bay, unlacing my boots, my uniform stiff with dried sweat and disinfectant. My hands still felt the weight of the stretcher rails. My ears still rang with radio chatter and sirens that refused to fade, even in silence. I was tired in the normal way, the honest way. I bought a coffee at the gas station across from the station, the kind that tastes burnt no matter how much cream you add. I stood there scrolling through messages from my brother Owen, complaining about a history test, when a woman at the counter glanced at me, then glanced again. Her eyes lingered on my name patch. Hannah. She did not smile. By the time I stepped outside, my phone started vibrating in my pocket. Not ringing, buzzing, one message after another, piling up so fast I could not read them. I thought it was a group chat from work. Maybe someone had called in sick. Maybe they needed coverage. Instead, the first thing I saw was my own face. The video was already playing when I tapped it. Grainy, shaky, shot from across the street. It showed an ambulance parked crooked at a curb I recognized immediately. East Bay Street, 3 nights ago. A cardiac call. The woman filming zoomed in just as a man in a brown jacket stepped close to me. In the video, I took something from his hand, a thick envelope. I slid it into my pocket. Then the camera cut to the patient on the stretcher. His chest was still, his mouth open. The woman filming whispered something that sounded like a prayer. The video ended there. No context. No sound from my radio. No view of my hands working the bag valve mask. No monitor. No timeline. Just that moment, looped again and again. I stood frozen on the sidewalk, the coffee cooling in my hand, my brain refusing to catch up with what my eyes were seeing. I never took money from anyone. Not ever. Not on a call. Not in my life. My phone buzzed again. Suspended pending investigation. Another buzz. State Health Services has been notified. Another. Please contact your union representative. By the time I drove home, local news stations had already shared the clip. The headline under my face used words like alleged and paramedic under fire, but the comments did not bother with caution. They used simpler words. Monster. Killer. Corrupt. When I pulled into my driveway, Owen was sitting on the front steps with his backpack at his feet. He stood up when he saw me, relief flashing across his face for half a second before confusion replaced it. Someone at school showed me a video, he said. He did not ask if it was true. He just said it, like stating the weather. I told him to go inside. I told him I would explain later. Inside, the house felt too quiet, the kind of quiet that presses against your ears. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and noticed my hands were shaking. I sat at the kitchen table and watched my phone light up again. A message from Child Protective Services. Due to recent developments, we need to reassess the safety and stability of the current guardianship arrangement. I read it twice before the words made sense. They were talking about Owen. I became his legal guardian after our mother died 2 years ago. Heart failure, no warning, no time to say goodbye. It had just been the 2 of us since then. I worked overtime. I kept my record clean. I did everything right. And now a video I had never seen before this morning was threatening to take him away. I went to my bedroom and changed out of my uniform, folding it carefully even though my hands wanted to rip it apart. The fabric smelled like antiseptic and sweat, like every life I had ever touched on a shift. I left it on the bed and stared at it for a long moment before turning away. At noon, my supervisor called. "Hannah," he said, not unkindly, "we have to follow protocol." I asked him if he believed the video. There was a pause. "Too long. We just need time," he said. Do not come into the station. After the call ended, I sat on the floor with my back against the couch, breathing slow, counting tiles. 1, 2, 3. The way I did with patients who were panicking. By mid-afternoon, reporters were already outside. I did not answer the door. I closed the blinds. I turned off the television. But the silence felt worse than the noise. At 4:30, Grant called. Grant Whitaker, my fiancé. The man I was supposed to marry in 6 months. His voice sounded strained, tight, like he was holding it together with his teeth. My mother saw the video, he said. She wants to talk to you tonight. I asked him what he thought. Another pause. She is worried, Hannah. About your reputation. About everything. That word sat between us. Everything. His mother, Lorraine Whitaker, had always been polite, warm enough to pass for kindness, but measured, controlled. She liked things neat, predictable. She asked careful questions and never raised her voice. When she spoke about my job, she always said how proud she was of my service, but she also liked to remind me that one mistake could end a career in emergency medicine. Lives depend on you, she once said over dinner, smoothing her napkin. You cannot afford even a small error. I had nodded, thinking it was advice. Now it felt like a warning I had missed. That evening, after Owen locked himself in his room, I replayed the video again. Slower this time. Frame by frame. The uniform was right. The street was right. The lighting matched the time of night. But something was wrong. In the video, my left hand wore a silver ring. Thick band, plain. I do not wear rings at work. Never have. My hands swell on long shifts. I hate the way metal feels under gloves. I flexed my fingers now. Bare. Familiar. The ring in the video sat there anyway, solid as proof. At 6, I noticed something else. The ambulance number in the background was slightly blurred, just enough that you could not read it clearly, and the audio, the radio chatter was wrong, too clean, too flat, like it had been pasted in. At 7, Grant texted again. Please come, Mom is insisting. I told Owen to stay in his room. I told him not to open the door for anyone. He nodded without looking at me. When I stepped outside, I noticed a black sedan parked across the street. The engine was off. The windows were tinted too dark. As I walked past, I caught a glimpse of a folded newspaper on the dashboard. The headline showed my face. The car did not move. I drove toward the Whitaker house, my hands tight on the steering wheel, the sky darkening over the river. By the time I reached their street, my phone buzzed one more time. Official notice of investigation. Hearing scheduled in 7 days. 7 days to prove I was not the woman in that video. 7 days before everything I built collapsed completely. As I pulled into their driveway, I realized something cold and heavy had settled in my chest. Whatever this was, it was not a mistake. Someone had planned it, and they knew exactly what it would cost me. The next morning did not feel like a new day. It felt like the continuation of a fall. I woke up before my alarm, my body tense, my jaw aching from clenching my teeth in my sleep. For a few seconds, I forgot why my chest felt tight. Then my phone lit up on the nightstand, and the memory slammed back into place. Missed calls, unknown numbers, voicemails I did not open. I lay there staring at the ceiling fan as it turned, slow and uneven, listening to the faint sound of a garbage truck outside. Normal sounds. Normal life. None of it matched what was happening to me. Owen was already gone when I walked into the kitchen. A note sat on the counter, written in his uneven handwriting. Went to school early. Do not come pick me up. People are weird. I stood there longer than I should have, reading it again and again, until the coffee maker beeped and startled me. At 9, I drove to the station anyway. Not to work. Just to stand in the parking lot and remind myself that this place had once been mine. The ambulance bays were full. Doors open. Stretcher wheels clattered over concrete. Laughter drifted from inside the building. It felt obscene, like walking past a party after a funeral. I got out of my car. Conversations stopped when people noticed me. Some faces turned away. Others stared too long. Curiosity sharpened into judgment. A medic I had trained years ago hesitated, then nodded at me. That was all. No words. Inside, my supervisor met me in the hallway. He did not invite me into his office. He kept his arms folded, blocking the doorway behind him. "You should not be here." "Hannah." I asked if the station had the original footage from the call, the dash camera, the interior feed. He shook his head. "Everything is locked until the investigation concludes." I asked who had filed the complaint. "Anonymous submission," he said. "Came with the video already edited." Edited. The words stuck in my throat. When I left, I felt smaller than when I arrived. Outside, a man in a dark suit leaned against a car near the exit. He held a folded newspaper in one hand, the same headline glaring back at me. He did not look at his phone. He did not smoke. He just watched. When I started my engine, he unfolded the paper, hiding his face. I drove away with my heart pounding too fast. My mirrors checked and rechecked. By noon, my inbox was full of messages from people I did not know. Some demanded answers. Some demanded punishment. One message told me to kill myself and save taxpayers the trouble. I turned my phone off. At 1:30, the school called. The assistant principal spoke carefully, choosing words like she was defusing a bomb. "There was an incident involving your brother," she said. "He is not hurt." I picked Owen up from the nurse office. His backpack sat at his feet. His face was red, his jaw set in a way I recognized too well. A boy on the bus had played the video out loud. When Owen told him to stop, someone laughed and called him the brother of a murderer. The nurse offered tissues. I did not take them. On the drive home, Owen stared out the window. He did not cry. That scared me more than tears. At a stoplight, he spoke. "Did you really take money?" he asked. "No," I said immediately. "No." He nodded once, like he had already decided to believe me, and did not say anything else. At home, there was a business card taped to the door. "Attorney at law," representing the Collins family. The patient from the video. My hands shook as I pulled it free. The tape left a faint tear on the paint. I did not call the number. At 4, Grant came over. He did not knock. He let himself in like he always had. He looked tired. His hair was out of place. He smelled like cologne and stress. "Mom wants you to stay calm," he said, pacing the living room. "She thinks making noise will only make things worse." I asked him if he believed me. He stopped pacing. His shoulders sagged. "I believe you would never hurt someone on purpose," he said. On purpose. That night, after Grant left, I sat at the kitchen table again and watched the video with the sound off, then with the sound on. Then slowed down. I focused on the smallest details, the angle of the light, the way the shadow fell under the ambulance, the timing between movements. Something was off, but it was slippery, like trying to remember a dream. At 11, my phone buzzed again. I had turned it back on in case the school called. "Unknown number," I answered. "Hannah Pierce," a man said. Calm, polite, almost friendly. "I would suggest you stop looking so closely." "Who is this?" I asked. "A concerned citizen," he said. "Someone who does not want to see your brother suffer because of your stubbornness." My throat went dry. He hung up before I could respond. I did not sleep much. The next day, Child Protective Services showed up at 9:30. The woman was kind, professional. She took notes while I answered questions about my schedule, my finances, my stress levels. She asked if I had ever been treated for anxiety, if I had ever misused prescription medication, if I had people who could help support Owen if I was deemed unfit. Owen sat on the stairs and listened. When she left, he slammed his bedroom door hard enough to rattle the walls. At noon, my phone buzzed again. A text this time, no number attached. "There is a way out." I did not reply. Another message followed. "You just need to cooperate." Then a third. "Your brother deserves stability." I stared at the screen until it went dark. In the afternoon, I drove to the river to clear my head. The water was low, boats rocking gently against the docks. Tourists took photos, unaware that my life was unraveling less than a mile away. As I walked back to my car, I noticed the black sedan again, parked at the far end of the lot. Same dark windows, same stillness. I did not approach it. That evening, I finally did something I should have done sooner. I searched for help outside the system that was already closing in on me. I found Marcus Reed through a friend of a friend, former data analyst, cybersecurity, private work now. His office was above a print shop, the stairs narrow and steep. He listened without interrupting as I explained everything, from the video to the calls to the threats against Owen. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "If this is fake," he said, "it is good. Whoever did it had access, time, and a reason." "Who would want this?" I asked. He looked at me steadily. "Who loses the most if you are discredited?" I thought of the lawyer, the lawsuit, the money. I did not think of Grant. I did not think of his family. Not yet. As I stood to leave, my phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown contact. "Tell Hannah to stop asking questions, or the next video will be worse." Attached was a photo. Owen, walking home from school, taken from across the street. I felt the room tilt. By the time I looked up, Marcus was already moving, locking his door, pulling up maps and logs. Whatever this was, it had crossed a line. And I knew then that staying quiet was no longer an option. The Whitaker house sat on a quiet street lined with live oaks and iron fences that had not changed in 100 years. The porch lights were already on when I pulled in, casting warm circles on the brick driveway. Everything about the place was meant to feel stable, permanent, untouchable. Grant opened the door before I could knock. He reached for me out of habit, then stopped himself, like he was unsure what he was allowed to do now. "Mom is in the study," he said. Lorraine Whitaker stood when I entered, smoothing the front of her cream-colored blouse. She smiled, the same careful smile she always used, the one that never showed teeth. "Hannah," she said. "Thank you for coming." Her voice was calm, no accusation, no sympathy either, just control. We sat. Grant took the chair between us, like a bridge that might collapse under weight. Lorraine folded her hands in her lap. "This has been very upsetting for our family," she began. "For all of us." I waited. She asked about my childhood, about my mother, about the stress of working emergency medicine while raising a teenager. Each question was gentle, almost concerned, but they stacked on top of each other in a way that made it hard to breathe. "Have you been sleeping, Hannah? Are you eating properly? Have you ever felt overwhelmed on the job?" She paused, then added, "Have you ever taken medication to cope?" Grant shifted beside me. I answered honestly, short, precise, like I was charting my own life. Lorraine nodded at each response, filing them away. When she finally mentioned the video, she did it casually, like an afterthought. "Of course, perception matters," she said. "Even if something is not true, once people believe it, the damage is done." She leaned back slightly. "The Whitaker name has survived many storms. We know how quickly a reputation can be destroyed." Grant cleared his throat. "Mom." She raised a hand, silencing him without looking. "I am only thinking of what is best," she said, "for everyone involved." Then she made her offer. "Perhaps it would be wise to postpone the engagement," she said, "until things settle. A public pause shows responsibility. It protects Grant. It protects you." The words landed heavy and sharp. I thought of Owen sitting on the stairs, listening to strangers question my fitness to be his guardian. I thought of the black sedan, of the calls, of the man who told me to stop asking questions. Postponing would not protect me. It would isolate me. "No," I said. Lorraine blinked once. Just once. "My reputation will not be repaired by hiding," I continued, "and my brother needs stability now, not later." Her smile did not return. We spoke for a few more minutes after that, but the meeting was over. The warmth had drained from the room. When I stood to leave, Lorraine rose as well. "I hope you understand, Hannah," she said quietly. "These things have consequences." Outside, the air felt cooler. Grant walked me to my car in silence. I wanted him to say he believed me. I wanted him to say he would stand with me. Instead, he said, "She is scared." "So am I," I replied. He did not follow me home. When I unlocked my front door, something felt wrong immediately. The house smelled the same, looked the same, but the sense of being watched crept up my spine. I went straight to the hallway closet where I kept the lockbox, the one with Owen paperwork, guardianship forms, court documents. The box was still there. The latch was not. Inside, the folders were slightly out of order, a corner bent where I knew I had not bent it. One document was missing, a copy of the emergency contact authorization, the one that proved Owen lived with me. My hands went cold. I checked Owen's room. He was at his desk, pretending to do homework. "Did anyone come by today?" I asked. He shrugged. "Some lady. She said she was checking on us. She knew my name." My stomach dropped. I locked the doors. All of them. I closed the blinds and sat at the table again, the same spot where everything kept unraveling. At 10, Marcus called. "I think I found something," he said. He asked me to describe the ring again. The one in the video. I told him it was thick, plain, no markings. He was quiet for a moment. "That ring is common in stock footage sets," he said. "Cheap, generic. Used when they need hands to look real without identifying a person." My pulse picked up. He asked me if I had ever given my old tablet to anyone, the one I used to watch training videos on, the one with years of my photos and emails. I thought of Lorraine smiling as she flipped through engagement pictures months ago. "Yes," I said. "I gave it to grandmother. She wanted to show photos to her friends." Marcus exhaled slowly. "If someone had access to your personal media, your mannerisms, your voice patterns," he said, "they could build a convincing fake, not perfect, but good enough to ruin you before you can explain." That night, another message came through. This time, not a threat, a suggestion, a lawyer name, an address, a time. "If you want this to go away, talk to him." I did not go. The next morning, CPS returned, this time with paperwork. "Temporary reassessment," the woman said. "We need to ensure Owen's safety." Owen did not speak. He packed a bag with shaking hands. I signed nothing. I called Marcus. I called a union lawyer. I called anyone who would listen. By afternoon, Owen was allowed to stay. For now felt like a countdown. That evening, Grant finally came back. He stood in the doorway like a stranger. "My father knows people," he said quietly. "Powerful people." I looked at him. "Are they helping me?" I asked. He did not answer. After he left, I sat alone in the dark, my phone face down on the table. I realized something then, something I should have seen sooner. This was not about money. It was about control, about deciding who was allowed to stay clean and who would be sacrificed to keep the system looking perfect. And whoever was behind it knew my routines, my family, my weaknesses. They were not watching from a distance anymore. They were already inside my life. I stopped thinking in terms of days after that. Time broke down into smaller units, phone vibrations, door knocks, the sound of Owen footsteps moving too quietly through the house. Marcus told me to assume every device I owned had been touched in some way. Not hacked, not yet, just observed, mapped. He said people who build traps like to understand how their target moves before they tighten anything. So we started with distance. I left my phone at home and drove to a public library on the other side of town. I parked between two minivans and walked in with my head down. The place smelled like dust and old paper, safe, neutral. Marcus met me at a table near the back. He wore a baseball cap pulled low and carried nothing but a notebook. "The video is not amateur work," he said quietly. "It was assembled, compressed twice. Whoever did it wanted it to spread fast, not hold up under scrutiny." I asked him if he could prove it. "Eventually," he said. "But proof is not enough if the wrong people control the timeline." He explained it slowly, like he was talking to someone in shock. Investigations move at a certain pace. Reputations burn faster. By the time the truth surfaces, the damage is already accepted as fact. "So what do?" I asked. "You buy time," he said, "and you force a mistake." We went over everything again. The calls, the black sedan, the messages about Owen. Marcus circled one thing in his notebook. "The threats are inconsistent," he said. "Sometimes they want you quiet. Sometimes they want you to cooperate. That means there is more than one interest involved." I thought of Lorraine's calm voice. Harold Whittaker's smile at charity dinners, the way Grant avoided my eyes. That afternoon, I went to the station one last time, not to plead, but to observe. I sat in my car across the street and watched who came and went. At 3:17, a city vehicle pulled in. At 3:22, a man in a gray suit walked inside. At 3:30, the same man left, speaking into his phone. Marcus watched the feed from his laptop. "That is not internal," he said. "That is oversight." I went home feeling hollow. Owen was doing homework at the kitchen table. He had not asked to go out in days. "Someone followed me today," he said without looking up. My chest tightened. "From where to where?" I asked. "From the bus stop to the corner. They stopped when Mrs. Jensen waved at me." I went to the window and scanned the street. Nothing. Quiet. Perfect. That night, I dreamed I was running toward an ambulance that kept getting farther away. No matter how fast I ran, it shrank until it was just a red dot blinking in the dark. At 6 a.m, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without speaking. "You are making this harder than it needs to be," the voice said. Male, older, calm. "Who is this?" I asked. "Someone who understands how systems work," he said. "You have two options. Step back quietly, or lose everything publicly." He hung up. Marcus traced the call to a relay service. Clean, professional. At 10, I drove Owen to school myself. I waited until he was inside before pulling away. A black sedan rolled past slowly, then turned the corner. I followed it this time. Not close, not obvious. I stayed 3 cars back, heart hammering, hands slick on the wheel. It led me toward North Charleston, away from the historic streets and pastel houses, toward warehouses and strip malls and service roads. The sedan pulled into a parking lot behind a phone repair shop. I parked across the street and watched. A man stepped out, same suit I had seen at the station. He went inside, stayed less than 5 minutes, then drove off. I waited 10 more before crossing the street. The shop smelled like plastic and burnt solder. Glass cases lined the walls, filled with cracked screens and chargers. The owner looked up when I entered. He was in his 40s, hair pulled back, hands stained with ink. "Can I help you?" he asked. I showed him a photo of my old tablet, the one I had given to Lorraine. He squinted, then nodded. "Yeah. Someone brought that in a few weeks ago, wanted it unlocked. Data pulled." "Did he say who he was?" I asked. "He said it belonged to his mother. Needed family photos." My stomach twisted. "How did he pay?" I asked. "Cash, new bills." He wore gloves, which I thought was odd. People usually only do that when they are nervous. "Did you keep records?" I asked. He shook his head. "But I remember faces." I walked out feeling like the ground was shifting under me. That evening, Marcus confirmed it. My tablet had been accessed. Media files copied, voice samples extracted. "They have enough to build your digital double," he said. "Who?" I asked again. He hesitated. "The question is not who started this," he said. "It is who benefits from you being destroyed quietly." That night, CPS called again. This time, the tone was colder. "We have concerns," the caseworker said. "External reports suggest ongoing risk." External. I asked where those reports came from. She said she could not disclose that. After the call, I sat on the floor with my back against the cabinet and let myself cry for exactly 1 minute. I counted breaths. 60 seconds. Then I stood up. I called Marcus and told him we needed leverage. He asked me if I was willing to push back publicly. "Yes," I said. "But not recklessly. We need a controlled space," he said. "Somewhere they feel safe." I thought of the Whittaker Foundation Gala, the museum by the river, the donors, the cameras. "They will all be there," I said. "Good," Marcus replied. "People make mistakes when they are performing." The next morning, an envelope appeared in my mailbox. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Withdraw from the hearing. Sign the statement. Owen will be left alone." Attached was a photocopy of his school schedule. I felt something inside me harden. They were not bluffing. That afternoon, Marcus sent me a file. A small one. Harmless looking. "This is bait," he said. "Anyone who opens it leaves a mark. A digital fingerprint." "Who do I give it to?" I asked. Marcus did not answer right away. "Who do you trust least?" he finally said. I thought of Lorraine's gentle questions, her smooth control, the way she spoke about consequences like they were weather. I swallowed. "I know exactly who," I said. That night, as I watched Owen sleep, I realized something else. Whoever built this trap believed I would choose silence to protect him. They were wrong, and the next move would prove it. The morning after the envelope appeared, I woke up with the strange calm that comes right before a storm. My fear had burned itself out overnight, leaving something colder behind. Focus, purpose. I made Owen breakfast like I always did. Eggs, toast, orange juice poured into the same chipped glass we had used since he was 10. I did not tell him about the envelope. I did not tell him about the schedule photocopy. Some things are meant to be carried alone. He watched me closely anyway. "Are you going to work today?" he asked. I shook my head. "Not today." He nodded, relieved and worried at the same time. After he left for school, I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. Marcus had sent me a timeline during the night, a clean list of dates and actions. When my tablet was unlocked, when the video first appeared in private forums, when it was sent to news outlets, patterns emerged when you stared long enough. At 10:30, Marcus called. "I traced the payment trail from the phone repair shop," he said. "Cash makes it harder, but not impossible. Whoever paid used a runner. The runner used a personal vehicle registered to a shell company." "Whose shell company?" I asked. "The Whitaker Foundation," he said. I closed my eyes. This was no longer suspicion. This was structure. At noon, I drove to North Charleston again, not to follow anyone, to be seen. I parked in a busy lot and walked into a grocery store, my head down, my pace steady. Halfway down the aisle, my phone buzzed. "Unknown number. Do not do this," the message read. I kept walking. Another message followed. "You are risking your brother's future." I stopped by the dairy case and stared at my reflection in the glass. Pale, tired, still standing. I typed back one word. "No." The response came almost immediately. "Then you leave us no choice." I put my phone away and finished my shopping like a normal person. Milk, bread, apples Owen liked because they were crisp. When I got home, there was a car in my driveway. A white SUV with a county seal on the door. CPS. The caseworker stepped out, folder in hand. She looked apologetic. "We need to talk," she said. Inside, she explained that new information had come in overnight. Anonymous reports, concerns about my stability, about my ability to provide a safe environment. I asked what the new information was. She could not say. I asked if Owen was being removed. "Not today," she said, "but this is moving quickly." After she left, I sat on the floor again, staring at the wall until my vision blurred. Then I stood up and called Marcus. "They are escalating," I said. "So do we," he replied. That afternoon, I went to the Whitaker house unannounced. Lorraine answered the door herself. She looked surprised, then composed. "Hannah," she said, "is everything all right?" I forced a small smile. "I found something that might help clear my name," I said. "I need your advice." She stepped aside to let me in. We sat in the same study as before. Same chairs, same clock ticking softly on the wall. I handed her the USB drive Marcus had prepared. Plain, unmarked. "It has some recordings," I said. "I am not sure how to present them to the board. Grant said you might know the right people." Her fingers closed around the drive. Warm, confident. "Of course," she said. "I will make sure it reaches the right hands." As I stood to leave, she touched my arm. "You look exhausted, Hannah," she said gently. "You should take care of yourself. For Owen." I nodded and walked out, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. In my car, I did not cry. I did not scream. I drove straight home and waited. Marcus had told me not to expect immediate results. People like this moved on their own schedule. By 9 that night, the mark appeared. He called me, his voice low and controlled. "The file was opened," he said. "From the Whitaker Foundation Network. User credentials belong to Lorraine Whitaker. I leaned back against the counter, the room spinning. So it was her, I whispered. Not necessarily alone, he said. But yes, she touched it. At 10, my phone rang. It was Grant. My mother says you gave her something sensitive, he said. Did she open it? I asked. Silence. Grant, I said softly. Did she open it? Yes, he admitted. She said she needed to review it before helping you. I thanked him and hung up. I did not sleep that night. At 3 in the morning, another message came in. Stop now. This is your last warning. Attached was a photo of Owen Bike, locked outside the school, taken that day. I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands clenched, my heart hammering. Fear surged back, hot and sharp. But underneath it was certainty. They were not trying to scare me into silence anymore. They were trying to break me before I could speak. The next morning, Marcus came to my house. He stood in the doorway, scanning the street before stepping inside. They are closing ranks, he said, which means you are close. Close to what? I asked. To the truth they do not want public, he replied. He laid out the next steps, carefully, calmly. We would not confront Lorraine yet, not directly. We needed more than one mark, more than one proof point. He had contacted a police officer he trusted. Dana Alvarez. She had been on duty the night of my call. She wore a body camera. If we could get the raw footage, Marcus said, we could anchor the timeline. That afternoon, CPS called again. This time, they scheduled a formal review. 48 hours. My knees nearly gave out. I drove to pick up Owen from school myself. I did not let him take the bus. On the way home, he spoke quietly. Someone talked to me today, he said. I gripped the wheel tighter. Who? A man. He said he worked with people who could help you. He asked if you take pills sometimes, if you forget things. My vision blurred. What did you say? I asked. Owen looked at me. I said you never forget anything important, especially me. I pulled over and hugged him so hard he complained I was crushing him. That night, after he went to bed, I sat alone in the living room, the house silent around me. I thought about Lorraine's calm face, about Harold Whitaker power, about Grant's silence. This was no longer just about clearing my name. It was about a family that decided who deserved protection and who was expendable. And they had chosen wrong. The next phase would not be quiet. It would not be polite. And once it began, there would be no way back. The meeting with Officer Dana Alvarez happened in a place so ordinary, it almost felt insulting to the weight of what we were about to uncover. A diner near the crosstown. Vinyl booths. Burnt coffee. A neon sign that flickered every few seconds like it might give up at any moment. Dana arrived alone, off duty, wearing jeans and a plain gray jacket. She did not smile when she saw me. She did not apologize either. She slid into the booth across from Marcus and me and placed her phone face down on the table. I am not supposed to be here, she said. So if we do this, we do it once. I nodded. Dana had been one of the first officers on scene the night of the call in the video. I remembered her now. Steady hands, direct voice, the kind of cop you trusted instinctively. You know the footage circulating is edited, she said. I knew it the first time I saw it. My chest tightened. Why did you not say anything? I asked. Because someone asked me not to, she replied. And because the request came with paperwork. Marcus leaned forward. From who? He asked. Dana hesitated just long enough to answer honestly. From above my pay grade. From a city liaison, connected to a private donor. The Whitaker Foundation, I said quietly. Dana did not confirm it. She did not deny it either. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small external drive. Black, scratched, ordinary. This is the raw body camera footage from that night, she said. Uncompressed, unedited. It never left my locker. She slid it across the table. I stared at it like it might explode. If this gets traced back to me, Dana continued, my career is over. But I have watched too many good people get buried by lies. I am not doing it again. Marcus picked up the drive like it was sacred. What made you change your mind? He asked. Dana looked at me. The threats against your brother, she said. I have a son, same age. I recognized the pattern. We did not open the drive in the diner. Marcus insisted we wait. We drove to his office, the stairs creaking under our feet as if the building itself was listening. He locked the door, pulled the blinds, and disconnected the internet before plugging the drive in. The screen lit up. Timestamp, coordinates, officer ID, everything clean. Marcus played the footage. The scene unfolded exactly as I remembered it. The call came in at 2:14 a.m. A man collapsed outside a bar. Possible overdose, possible cardiac arrest. I was there. I could see myself move into frame. No envelope, no pause, no hesitation. The patient was breathing when we arrived. Shallow, irregular. I knelt, checked pupils, called for oxygen, started monitoring vitals. Then the man in the brown jacket stepped closer. He was agitated, shouting. Dana moved to intercept him. In the raw footage, the man never handed me anything. He handed something to another man standing near a parked car, a quick exchange, hidden in shadow. Then the patient went into arrest. Everything after that was chaos. Chest compressions, defibrillator, radio calls overlapping. I did everything right. Marcus paused the video. In the edited version, the moment with the envelope had been lifted from an entirely different angle. My face, my uniform, someone else's hand, seamlessly stitched. But there was more. The audio track in the viral clip was not from that night. It was a clean overlay. My voice, saying nothing I remembered saying. Marcus pulled up the metadata. The timestamps did not match. The compression signatures were wrong. The frame rate had been altered. "This is not just a fake," he said quietly. "This is a constructed narrative." Dana leaned over his shoulder. "They removed the 10 minutes after the arrest," she said. "The part where the patient regained a pulse." I swallowed hard. "He lived," I whispered. Dana nodded. "He died later, at the hospital. Complications. But he did not die on your stretcher. The room felt too small." "This means the core accusation is false," Marcus said. "But it also means something else." He pulled up a second file, a call log. The 911 call had been altered too. The original audio showed clear dispatch instructions. The viral version cut out critical context. "Someone had access to emergency systems," Marcus said. "Or influence over people who do." Dana straightened. "There was pressure after that night," she said. "Quiet meetings, requests to simplify reports, to keep things clean." "Clean for who?" I asked. Dana did not answer. Instead, she pulled out her phone and showed me a message thread. Names were redacted, but the sender was labeled City Liaison. "Stand down. Do not escalate. Donor is concerned." My stomach dropped. "Donor." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "This is bigger than your case," he said. "They needed a scapegoat before something else surfaced." I thought of Lorraine words, about storms, about reputation. "So, I was collateral," I said. "No," Dana replied. "You were selected." Silence filled the room. Marcus finally spoke. "We cannot just submit this quietly," he said. "They will bury it. You need a public anchor." I knew what he meant. The hearing, the gala. "We need to force the truth into a space they cannot control," I said. Dana nodded. "I can testify to the footage authenticity," she said, "but only if the pressure breaks first." "Pressure on who?" I asked. "On the people shielding the system." That night, as I drove home, the city lights blurred through my windshield. My hands were steady on the wheel. My fear had shifted shape. This was no longer about me versus a lie. This was about a machine that consumed people to protect itself. When I got home, Owen was asleep on the couch, his backpack still at his feet. I covered him with a blanket and sat beside him, watching his chest rise and fall. My phone buzzed. A message from Grant. "My father says you are playing a dangerous game." I stared at the words. Then I typed back. "Tell him I am done being quiet." I turned the phone face down. For the first time since this started, I knew something solid. I was not imagining this. I was not alone, and the story they had built around me was starting to crack. But the truth carried its own risk, because once it came out, there would be no polite exit for anyone involved, including me. Once the truth took shape, Fear stopped being loud. It became quiet, organized, dangerous in a different way. Marcus told me that was normal. When people realize they are not crazy, he said, they stop flailing, they start planning. We met again at his office, the blinds still drawn, the same hum of the old printer downstairs leaking through the floor. He laid everything out on the table, the raw body camera footage, the metadata reports, the log of Lorraine opening the bait file, screenshots of the payment shell tied to the Whitaker Foundation. "This is enough to expose manipulation," he said. "Not enough to finish it." "Finish what?" I asked. "The protection," he replied. "The insulation around Harold Whitaker." Hearing Grant's father name spoken so directly made my stomach tighten. Harold Whitaker was not just a donor, he was a fixture. A man whose name appeared on hospital wings, school auditoriums, city boards. He did not get his hands dirty. People like that never did. "So how do we force him into the light?" I asked. Marcus tapped the calendar on his tablet. "The gala," he said. 3 nights from now. The Whitaker Foundation annual fundraiser at the Maritime Museum. Press, donors, city council members, everyone who matters in one room. I already knew where this was going. "You want to use the stage," I said. He nodded. "Not to accuse," he said. "To bait." I thought of Lorraine holding the USB drive with steady hands, of her voice when she talked about consequences, of the way she framed everything as necessary, and Grant. Grant had not come over since the text from his father. He did not call. He did not ask if Owen was safe. His silence had weight now. That night, I confronted him. I drove to his apartment without warning. He answered the door slowly, like he had expected me but hoped I would not come. We sat at his kitchen table, the space between us filled with things we were no longer saying. "Your mother opened a file I gave her," I said. "A file that proved someone is manipulating evidence against me." Grant closed his eyes. "I need you to tell me something," I continued. "Did your father know?" He rubbed his face with both hands. "He knows something is happening," he said. "He thinks you are being used by people who want to hurt the family." I laughed once. A short, bitter sound. "Grant," I said, "I am the one being hurt." He looked up at me then, eyes red. "My father says if you push this, you will lose everything," he said. "Your case, your brother, your future." "And what happens if I stay quiet?" I asked. He did not answer. I stood up. "I am going to that gala," I said, "whether you stand next to me or not." He did not try to stop me. The next 2 days moved fast. Marcus set the trap carefully. The bait file was not the USB. That was just confirmation. The real hook was a document seeded into the Foundation internal system through a channel Lorraine trusted. A draft settlement, carefully worded, plausible, dangerous. Anyone who opened it would leave more than a fingerprint. They would leave intent. Dana stayed in contact, sending updates in short bursts. "There is movement," she texted the morning of the gala. "Pressure inside the department. People are nervous." CPS postponed the review by 72 hours. No explanation given. I took that as a sign. The night of the gala, Charleston looked like a postcard. The river reflected lights from the museum windows. Valets lined the curb. People in suits and gowns stepped out laughing, unaware of the current running under their feet. I wore a simple black dress. No jewelry, no ring. Marcus arrived separately, dressed as part of the audiovisual crew. Headset, badge, invisible. I saw Lorraine near the entrance, greeting guests with practiced warmth. She looked exactly the same. Perfect posture, calm eyes. Harold Whitaker stood beside her, hand resting lightly at her back. He looked like every photo I had ever seen of him. Confident, approachable, untouchable. When his eyes met mine across the room, his smile did not change. That was when I knew. He was not surprised. Grant arrived late. He stopped when he saw me, uncertainty flashing across his face. He walked toward me anyway. "You do not have to do this," he said quietly. "Yes, I do," I replied. The evening unfolded like theater. Speeches, applause, music drifting through the open doors to the terrace, donors clinking glasses. At 9:20, Marcus texted me. "File accessed." I felt my pulse spike. By whom? I typed back. 2 accounts, he replied. One is Lorraine, the other is Harold. I exhaled slowly. At 9:30, Harold took the stage to speak about community and integrity. His voice carried easily. He talked about trust, about responsibility, about protecting institutions from bad actors. I listened, every word slotting into place like evidence. When the speech ended, applause filled the room. Cameras flashed. I stepped forward before I could lose my nerve. "Excuse me," I said clearly. My voice did not shake. Heads turned. Murmurs rippled. Harold looked down at me, surprised now, genuinely. "Hannah," he said smoothly, "is there something you would like to say?" "Yes," I said. "There is." Marcus cut the lights. Just for a moment. The screen behind the stage flickered on. Not the viral video. The raw body camera footage. My hands working. Dana voice calling commands. The patient breathing. Gasps rippled through the room. Before anyone could speak, Lorraine stood up. "Turn that off," she said sharply. But the damage was already done. I turned to her. "You opened the file because you needed to know what I had," I said. "And your husband opened it because he needed to know what you were hiding." Silence. Harold's face hardened. "This is inappropriate," he said. "Security." Before anyone moved, Lorraine spoke again. "No," she said. Let her finish. Her voice was different now. Stripped of softness, she looked at me. "You were never meant to survive this quietly," she said. "Were you?" I shook my head. "No," I said. "I was meant to disappear." Lorraine's eyes flicked to Harold. That was when I understood something deeper. This was not just a cover-up. It was a war inside their own house. And I was standing in the middle of it. For a moment after the lights came back on, no one moved. The kind of silence that settles over a room full of powerful people is not empty. It is heavy, calculating. Everyone is deciding where to stand before they move their feet. The raw footage froze on the screen behind Harold. My hands mid-motion, Dana voice clear, the patient breathing. Someone near the front whispered, "Is that real?" Harold recovered first. "This is highly inappropriate," he said, his voice firm, practiced. "This event is not the place for unresolved accusations." He turned toward the security team at the side of the room. "Please escort her out." Before anyone could step forward, Lorraine lifted her hand. "No," the single word cut through the murmurs. Security hesitated. People noticed. Lorraine stood slowly, smoothing her dress. She did not look at me. She looked at Harold. "Let her speak," she said. "If what she is showing is false, it will collapse on its own." Harold's jaw tightened. "This is not how we handle things," he replied. Lorraine finally turned to face me. "Go on, Hannah," she said quietly. "Finish." I felt the room tilt, like the floor had shifted under my feet. I had prepared for resistance, for denial, for shouting. I had not prepared for permission. The video behind me faded to black, Marcus cueing the next file. The metadata appeared. Timestamps, compression signatures, clear and unforgiving. "This video circulating online was constructed," I said. "The original footage shows a different sequence of events. The patient did not die on scene. The envelope never reached my hand." A man near the back laughed nervously. "People fake things all the time," he said. I nodded. "They do," I agreed. "That is why we verified it against police body camera footage and emergency dispatch logs." Dana stepped forward from the side of the room then. No uniform, no badge displayed, but people recognized her. "I was on scene," she said clearly. "The footage shown earlier is authentic. The viral clip is not." The murmurs grew louder now. Phones came out. People whispered to each other. Harold raised his voice. "This is a private foundation event," he said. "You are creating a spectacle." I met his eyes. "No," I said. "I am showing how you avoid one." His smile vanished. Lorraine's eyes flicked between us. Something unreadable passed across her face. Marcus texted me. "He is trying to control the exit. Keep going." I took a breath. "The manipulation did not stop at video editing," I continued. "Reports were filed, complaints were sent. Anonymous concerns about my mental stability and my guardianship were submitted to Child Protective Services. That got their attention. My brother was targeted, I said. Followed, photographed, threatened. That finally broke the room. A woman near the stage gasped. Another shook her head slowly. This is absurd, Harold snapped. You are accusing us of crimes without evidence. I turned and gestured to the screen again. The file you opened tonight, I said. The one you thought was a settlement draft. That file recorded access logs. The screen changed. 2 names appeared. Lorraine Whitaker, Harold Whitaker. The room went dead quiet. Lorraine did not react. Harold did. He stepped back as if struck. That is a lie, he said. A technical trick. Lorraine finally spoke. No, she said softly. It is not. Every head turned toward her. Harold stared at his wife. What are you doing? He hissed under his breath. Lorraine did not answer him. She walked forward instead, stopping beside me. Close enough that I could smell her perfume. Clean, controlled, familiar. She looked out at the crowd. This was never meant to reach this stage, she said. That much is true. Harold spun toward her. Lorraine. She raised a hand. You will not speak over me tonight, she said. She turned back to the room. My husband believes in insulation, she continued. Layers. Distance. He builds systems that keep consequences far away. She paused. When I realized what he was planning to do with this young woman, she said, I intervened. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Intervened how? Someone asked. By accelerating it, Lorraine replied. By forcing exposure before it could be shaped into something fatal. I felt my stomach drop. You destroyed my life to save me, I said quietly. Lorraine looked at me then. Really looked. Yes, she said. And I would do it again. Harold's voice cracked. You have no idea what you are saying. I know exactly what I am saying, she replied. You needed a scapegoat, someone clean, someone with something to lose, someone no one would rush to defend. She gestured toward me. She was perfect. The word hit harder than any accusation. Marcus cut in then, stepping forward. The evidence shows coordinated manipulation of media, emergency systems, and social services, he said. Multiple agencies will be reviewing this. Harold laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. You think this ends me, he said. You think donors and councils will turn on me because of a stunt. Lorraine turned to him. I already sent the logs, she said. To the city ethics board, to the state, to every journalist who did not answer your calls. The room erupted. Security finally moved, but not toward me. They closed in around Harold. Grant stood frozen near the back, his face pale. When our eyes met, I saw something break there. Harold was escorted off the stage amid shouting and flashing cameras. Lorraine remained. She turned to me one last time. I am sorry for what it cost you, she said. But if you had married into this family, it would have cost you more. Then she followed them out. The gala dissolved into chaos after that. Reporters flooded the room. People demanded statements. Donors whispered into phones. Marcus grabbed my arm. We need to leave now, he said. We slipped out a side door into the cool night air. The river smelled like damp wood and diesel. Sirens echoed in the distance. My phone exploded with messages the moment I turned it back on. Unknown numbers, news outlets, CPS, lawyers. I leaned against the brick wall and slid down until I was sitting on the ground. I did not feel victorious. I felt hollow. Marcus crouched beside me. You did what you had to do, he said. I nodded. Across the street, a black sedan sat at the curb, engine running, windows down. A woman in sunglasses watched from the driver's seat. One hand rested on her stomach. She met my eyes for a split second before pulling away into traffic. I knew then that this was not over, not even close. The morning after the gala felt unreal, like waking up in a city that looked the same but no longer followed the same rules. News vans lined the street outside my house before sunrise. Camera lenses pointed at my front door. Someone had already printed my name on cardboard signs, misspelled but bold. I did not open the door. I made Owen breakfast, slower than usual. He watched the window instead of his plate. Are they here for you? He asked. Yes, I said, but they cannot come inside. That seemed to comfort him more than anything else I could have said. By 8, My phone rang with a number I recognized immediately. Lorraine Whitaker. I stared at it until it stopped, then rang again. I answered. "We need to talk," she said. "Somewhere private." I thought of the cameras outside, of reporters yelling questions I was not ready to answer. "Where?" I asked. "My house," she said. "Harold is not there." I hesitated. "You have an hour," I said. Her house looked different in daylight, less imposing, more exposed. The curtains were drawn, no staff in sight. Lorraine met me at the door without her usual polish. No makeup, no jewelry, just a plain sweater and tired eyes. She led me to the same study where she had once suggested postponing my engagement like it was a minor inconvenience. This time, she closed the door behind us. "I assume you want an apology," she said. I shook my head. "I want the truth," I replied. "All of it." She sat, folding her hands, the same controlled gesture, but it trembled now. "Harold has been manipulating city emergency contracts for years," she said. "Steering bids, eliminating obstacles. When someone dies under questionable circumstances, he needs a narrative ready." I felt my stomach turn. "So he needed someone to blame," I said. "He needed someone believable," she corrected. "Someone without power. Someone whose collapse would not ripple upward." She looked at me. "You. And you," I said. "Where did you fit?" Lorraine inhaled slowly. "I was supposed to keep the system quiet," she said. "Manage perception, handle fallout. That has always been my role." "Then why expose it?" I asked. "Because this time the fallout was not abstract," she said. "It was you. And your brother. And I saw where it ended." She leaned forward. "He was going to let the investigation drag until you lost your license permanently. Then he would feed the altered footage to prosecutors. You would be charged. Your brother would be removed. The story would close cleanly." My hands curled into fists. "So you ruined me first," I said flatly. "Yes," she replied. Before he could finish it, the words hung between us, heavy and wrong. "You destroyed my life," I said. "You put my brother in danger." Lorraine's eyes flickered. "I limited the danger," she said. "I never intended physical harm." "But you allowed it," I said. "The threats, the stalking." She did not deny it. "I needed you desperate enough to fight," she said quietly. "If you had retreated, he would have waited. He always waits." The logic was horrifying. And worse, it made a kind of sense. "So what now?" I asked. "Now I am done protecting him," she said. "And he knows it." As if summoned by her words, my phone buzzed. "Unknown number," I answered. "You made a mistake," Harold's voice said calmly. "You and my wife." I felt my chest tighten. "Stay away from my family," I said. He laughed softly. "You think last night was exposure," he said. "It was theater. The real consequences come later." The line went dead. Lorraine looked at me with something like regret. "He will escalate," she said. "He cannot afford to lose control." As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. A text from Marcus. "We have a problem. Call me now." I stepped outside to answer. "Dana just called," Marcus said. "There was a dispatch put out 10 minutes ago. A priority medical call routed directly to you." I frowned. "I am suspended," I said. "Exactly," Marcus replied. "Which means you should not be anywhere near a scene." Cold dread slid through me. "Where is the call?" I asked. "An abandoned house on the west side," he said. "No address history, no registered residence." "This is a setup," I whispered. "Yes," Marcus said. "And I think Owen is part of it." My heart slammed into my ribs. "What do you mean?" I demanded. "A call was placed from a burner near his school," Marcus said. "They want to tie you to a response you are not authorized to make." I ran back inside. Lorraine was already standing, her phone pressed to her ear. "He is moving," she said, faster than I expected. "Where is Owen?" I asked. "At school," she said. "I sent someone to watch him." That was not enough. I ran. I drove faster than I should have, ignoring the honking cars and shouted curses. I reached the school in 7 minutes that felt like 7 hours. Owen stood by the gate, backpack on, confusion on his face. "They said you were picking me up," he said when he saw me. I grabbed him and pulled him into the car. Not today, I said. Not ever. As I pulled away, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Harold. You cannot outrun this. At the same time, Marcus texted. Dana is on the way to the house. Do not go near it. I did not. Instead, I drove to Marcus' office, the only place that still felt anchored to reality. We barricaded the door and watched the newsfeed together. Police surrounded the abandoned house. Inside, they found cameras, props, medical supplies, a script printed and taped to the wall. The plan was clear. They were going to film me breaking protocol, taking drugs, doing something irreversible. Harold had intended to end me publicly. Lorraine watched the footage in silence. He crossed a line, she said finally. He crossed many, I replied. By nightfall, the city was buzzing with rumors. Investigations multiplied. Harold's name was everywhere. But he was not arrested. Not yet. That night, Lorraine called me one last time. I am turning myself in tomorrow, she said. For my part. Why? I asked. Because it is the only way to stop him from blaming you for everything, she said. He will burn me anyway. I might as well choose the fire. My throat tightened. You do not owe me that, I said. She was quiet for a moment. I owe myself, she replied. And you deserve to live without him watching. When the call ended, I sat in the dark, Owen asleep beside me, and felt the weight of what she had chosen. This was not justice. It was sacrifice. And it meant the fight was not over. It meant it was changing shape again. The day Lorraine turned herself in, the city moved like it was holding its breath. News alerts stacked on my phone before I even unlocked it. Headlines talked about internal investigations, ethics violations, donors distancing themselves. Lorraine Whitaker's name was everywhere, framed as either a villain or a tragic whistleblower, depending on who was writing. Harold Whitaker's name appeared too, but always with words like alleged and under review. He was still clean on paper, still free. Marcus warned me not to mistake noise for safety. Men like him do their worst work when they are quiet, he said. By mid-morning, Dana called. Lorraine gave a full statement, she said. She admitted to initiating the data manipulation and media interference. And Harold? I asked. Dana exhaled. She implicated him without naming him directly. Enough to trigger warrants, not enough to cuff him today. I looked at Owen sitting at the table, headphones on, pretending to do homework while clearly listening to everything. That afternoon, CPS called again. This time the tone had changed. We are closing the reassessment, the caseworker said. Given the new information, there is no basis to remove Owen from your care. My knees went weak. Thank you, I said, my voice barely steady. After the call, I locked every door and checked every window. Marcus insisted I stay put. Dana had patrol cars cycling the block, but Harold still had reach. At 3:30, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. Private. I did not answer. A text followed. You think she saved you. Another buzz. She only delayed the inevitable. I turned my phone face down and focused on Owen. We cooked dinner together. Pasta from a box. Sauce from a jar. Normal things that felt precious now. Just after 6, the power flickered. Once. Twice. Then it went out completely. Owen looked up. Did we forget to pay a bill? He asked. No, I said. Go to your room. Lock the door. I grabbed a flashlight and my keys. Marcus had taught me what to look for. Disruptions were signals. Outside, the streetlights were still on. Just my house was dark. The breaker box in the side yard was open. That was when my phone rang. Harold, I answered. You should not be alone tonight, he said calmly. My heart pounded, but my voice did not shake. You should turn yourself in, I replied. He chuckled. I am standing in front of your house, Hannah. I moved away from the window slowly. What do you want? I asked. To talk, he said. Face to face. Lorraine made her choice. Now you make yours. I hung up and called Marcus. He is here, I said. Dana is 3 minutes out, Marcus replied. Do not engage. Do not open the door. The doorbell rang. Once, then again. Owen called from his room, his voice tight. Hannah, stay where you are, I said loudly. Harold's voice carried through the door. You have always been brave, Hannah. I respect that. But bravery without leverage is just stubbornness. I did not respond. The doorbell stopped. Silence stretched. Then I heard it. The scrape of metal at the back door. My pulse roared in my ears. I moved toward the kitchen, keeping low, my flashlight off. The back door handle rattled, then stopped. A shadow passed the window. I grabbed the fire extinguisher from under the sink, heavy, solid. The glass of the back door shattered inward. Harold stepped through like he owned the space. He wore no jacket, no weapon I could see, just confidence. "You see," he said conversationally, "I did not want this to be dramatic." I raised the extinguisher. "Get out," I said. He smiled. "You are suspended, discredited, surrounded by doubt. Even now, if I say you attacked me, who do you think they will believe?" I pressed the lever. White powder exploded into his face. He shouted, stumbling back, coughing. I did not hesitate. I ran past him, grabbed Owen's hand, and pulled him toward the front door. The sirens arrived as we burst outside. Police cars screeched to a halt. Officers flooded the yard, weapons raised. Harold dropped to his knees, hands up, face white with extinguisher residue and rage. "You have no idea what you just did," he shouted as they cuffed him. I did not look back. Dana wrapped a blanket around Owen's shoulders. Marcus stood nearby, his face tight with relief. "This is it," Dana said quietly. He crossed the line, breaking and entering. Threats, witness intimidation. Harold was led away, shouting promises and curses until the car door slammed shut. The street fell silent again. That night, Owen slept on the couch with the television on low. I sat in a chair nearby, the house smelling faintly of chemical dust and fear. Marcus handed me my phone. "Lorraine sent something before she was booked," he said. A file. Inside was a video. Raw. Unedited. Harold in a private office, speaking to a man I recognized from city council. "If the paramedic does not fold," Harold said on the recording, "we move to phase 2. She will break. They always do." I closed my eyes. "What do you want to do?" Marcus asked. I thought of Lorraine choosing the fire, of Owen asking if we forgot to pay a bill, of Harold standing in my kitchen like he had every right to be there. "I want it on record," I said. "All of it." Marcus nodded. "Then get some sleep," he said. "Tomorrow will be loud." As dawn crept through the windows, I finally allowed myself to believe something had shifted, not because justice was done, but because the man who thought he could decide my ending had finally lost control of the story. And this time, there would be witnesses. The hearing room smelled like old carpet and recycled air, the kind of place where decisions were made quietly and then announced as if they had always been inevitable. I sat at the long table with Marcus to my right and a union lawyer I barely knew to my left. Owen sat behind us, feet swinging, hands folded too tightly in his lap. Dana stood near the wall in uniform, posture straight, eyes forward. Across the room, Harold Whitaker sat with his legal team. Clean suit, perfect posture. No sign of the man who had smashed my back door 2 nights earlier. If not for the police report and the still healing cut on his hand, he could have passed for untouched. The chair of the board cleared his throat. "This hearing concerns allegations of misconduct, evidence tampering, and abuse of influence involving emergency medical services," he said. I felt my heart pound, but my hands were steady. Marcus began. He presented the body camera footage first. Raw, time-stamped. Uncut, he let it play longer than necessary, letting the room absorb every movement, every command, every breath the patient took after my hands left his chest. Then he showed the viral video, side by side. The differences were obvious now. The angles, the edits, the audio splices. The board members leaned forward. Dana testified next. She explained the pressure, the emails, the requests to simplify reports. She did not raise her voice. She did not editorialize. She simply described facts. Then came the logs. The bait file, the access records, Lorraine name, Harold name. Murmurs rippled through the room. Harold attorney stood. "This is circumstantial," he said smoothly. "Technical data can be manipulated. My client denies all wrongdoing." I stood up. "May I speak?" I asked. The chair hesitated, then nodded. I did not talk about technology. I did not talk about metadata. I talked about Owen. I talked about the envelope in my mailbox, the calls, the photos taken of my brother walking home from school. I talked about being suspended without a hearing, about being erased in 10 minutes. I described the night Harold stood in my kitchen and told me no one would believe me. Silence followed. Then, the door at the back of the room opened. Lorraine Whitaker walked in, escorted by an officer. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her hands were cuffed. Her hair was pulled back without care. She asked to speak. The room froze. Lorraine stood at the podium and did not look at Harold. I orchestrated the early manipulation, she said. I authorized the use of private contractors to alter footage and influence reporting channels. Gasps filled the room. Why? The chair asked. Lorraine closed her eyes briefly. Because my husband intended to let an innocent woman be destroyed to protect his network, she said, and because I believed exposing her early was the only way to stop him. Harold stood up. You are lying, he snapped. You are unstable. Lorraine turned to him. You taught me how to do this, she said quietly. You taught me how to build insulation, how to sacrifice pieces to protect the board. She turned back to the room. Everything she said is true, Lorraine continued. And there is more. Marcus played the file Lorraine had sent from custody. Harold's voice filled the room. If the paramedic does not fold, we move to phase 2. The chair slammed the gavel. That is enough. Harold's lawyer tried to speak. The chair cut him off. Based on the evidence presented, this board recommends immediate referral for criminal prosecution, the chair said. This hearing is adjourned. Harold's face drained of color. As officers moved toward him, he looked at me. This is not over, he said softly. I met his gaze. It is for me, I replied. Outside, reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Marcus guided me through the chaos, Owen hand in mine. Lorraine was led to a separate car. As she passed me, our eyes met. I did not thank her. She did not ask for it. That night, my phone buzzed with an alert. Charges filed. Witness intimidation. Evidence tampering. Breaking and entering. Harold Whitaker name scrolled across the screen. Owen read it over my shoulder. Is it done? He asked. I thought of Lorraine's cell, of appeals, of long court calendars. No, I said. But it has started ending. He nodded and went to bed. I sat alone in the living room, the house quiet again, and realized something unexpected. I did not feel triumphant. I felt tired. And for the first time in weeks, that felt like a kind of peace. 6 months passed without ceremony. No countdown, no announcement, just days stacking on top of each other until the noise faded into something distant enough to live with. The charges against Harold Whitaker moved slowly, the way powerful cases always do. Motions, appeals, closed-door meetings that never made the news. Lorraine pled guilty early, accepting responsibility for her role in evidence manipulation and obstruction. She did not bargain. She did not name conditions. She simply stopped fighting. My name was cleared on paper long before it was repaired in conversation. The state reinstated my paramedic license after a formal review. A letter arrived in the mail, heavy cardstock, precise language. It said I was fit to return to duty. It did not say I was sorry for what happened to you. When I walked back into the station for the first time, conversations dipped and rose again as if nothing had happened. Some people smiled. Some avoided my eyes. No one clapped. I did not expect them to. Trust is not a switch. It is a scar. I took slower shifts at first. Day calls, non-critical transport. I did not mind. I needed to relearn the shape of my own hands on a stretcher without flinching. Owen started sleeping through the night again. That alone felt like a victory. CPS closed our file permanently. The caseworker apologized once, quietly, in my living room. She said the system was designed to respond to risk, not truth. I believed her. Grant tried to reach out twice, once by text, once by email. He said he was leaving Charleston. He said he was sorry for not standing up sooner. I did not reply. Some doors do not need to be slammed. They close on their own when you stop holding them open. One afternoon, a manila envelope appeared in my mailbox. No return address, no stamp. Inside was a small memory card. My hands went cold when I saw it. I did not open it right away. I made tea. I watched Owen kick a soccer ball against the fence in the backyard. I waited until the house felt steady. The video on the card was real. No edits, no overlays, no tricks. Harold Whitaker sat in a private office, jacket off, sleeves rolled. He spoke to someone off camera. His voice was relaxed, confident. "The city council will fall in line," he said. "They always do. Emergency contracts are leverage. People do not like their ambulances delayed." A pause. "The girl is resilient," he continued. "But she will choose silence if it protects the boy." The video ended there. I sat very still. Marcus was not the sender. Dana was not. There was only one person who could have sent it. Lorraine. She had mailed me the key from inside her cell. The choice sat heavy in my hands. If I released the video, Harold's case would accelerate. Charges would multiply, but the metadata would reveal the transfer route. Lorraine would face additional time for distributing evidence from custody. If I stayed silent, Harold lawyers would continue grinding the system down. Maybe they would win, maybe they would not, but people like him rarely stopped unless forced. That night, I did not sleep. I watched the ceiling fan spin and thought about everything that had been taken from me. My reputation, my sense of safety, the months Owen spent looking over his shoulder. I also thought about Lorraine, about the way she said she would choose the fire herself. In the morning, Owen sat across from me at the table, cereal untouched. "You are thinking loud again," he said. I smiled weakly. I showed him the card. He watched the video once, expression unreadable. "What happens if you show this?" he asked. I told him the truth. He thought for a long moment. Then he said, "If you do not, someone else gets hurt later. Not us, someone else." Children have a way of seeing through fog. I called Marcus. "We publish," I said. He did not ask why. The video went live 3 days later. This time, there was no room for doubt, no edits to argue, no narrative to spin. Harold Whitaker was arrested again, this time without a camera crew waiting. Federal charges followed. His network unraveled faster than I expected. People talked when the insulation burned away. Lorraine's sentence was extended. She sent me one last letter. No apology, no request, just a single line written in careful handwriting. "You chose correctly." I folded the letter and placed it in the back of a drawer. Some things are not meant to be revisited often. Life did not become perfect after that. Some people still whispered. Some parents still pulled their kids closer when I walked by. The internet never forgets, even when it is wrong. But I slept. I laughed again. Quietly at first, then louder. One evening, after a long shift, I locked the front door and checked the windows out of habit. Owen watched me from the couch. "You know you do not have to do that every time," he said. I smiled. "I know," I replied, "but I like knowing I can." Later, as I turned off the lights, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Former city donor Harold Whitaker sentenced. Multiple counts, maximum term. I stared at the screen, waiting for something to hit me. Nothing did. I turned the phone face down and walked into the kitchen, where Owen had left his homework spread across the table. The house was quiet, solid, ours. And for the first time since this began, I understood something clearly. Justice does not always feel like victory. Sometimes it feels like choosing who you are willing to become when power gives you no clean options. That night, I locked the door, not because I was afraid, but because it was my door, and that was enough.